Hi guys, welcome back to Scott Family Homestead. I'm Christine, and a lot of you are new here from the Every Bit Counts Challenge. Welcome, I'm so happy that you are here. Today we're going to talk about something different. We're going to talk about pigs. So here on our homestead, we not only grow a huge garden, can and preserve a ton of food, we also grow our protein here. So we grow chickens, beef, and our biggest producer is pork. We grow a ton of pork here. We sell it by the cut, we sell it by the half or the whole. It is a huge part of our homestead. And we raise our pigs on pasture. So they got moved in here just a few days ago. They have a electric netting fence with a whole long ways to go. They've got a ton of space to move on to once they are done clearing this land for us. We're kind of just trying to get this all leveled out a little bit more. So if you joined us with the preservation challenge, I hope that you stick around and see our cute little animals. We got a brand new batch of piglets this week. We're going to talk about that. But our primary topic of conversation today is why pasture-raised pigs, why you should be buying pasture-raised pigs from your local farmer or raising them yourself. We're going to talk about conventionally raised, factory farmed pigs. I don't love that term. We'll get into that a little bit. But anyways, we're going to talk about kind of your grocery store pork versus your pasture-raised pork, what the differences are, how we decided that this is how we want to grow our pigs. So in order to get started, let's talk about your conventionally raised pork. The stuff you buy at the grocery store, the nice cheap cuts of protein, a lot more affordable than beef in most cases, and kind of how that system came about. So conventional farming as a whole, these factory farms or whatever term you want to use for them, they are trying to raise as many animals as they can with the greatest amount of survival. So they utilize completely different systems than we use here on pasture. One of the things they use is the gestation crates. It starts from the very beginning of mamas farrowing their piglets. So in a conventional system, they use something called a farrowing crate or a gestation crate in most states. Now, some states are making rules against this or how long gilts or sows can be in these crates, but essentially it's a very tight space. It is a row of bars on either side of the pig, and it allows her to lay down to farrow her pigs or to nurse her pigs and stand up, but she cannot turn around, generally on a grate or on cement. And it is used in order to keep her from crushing her piglets for better piglet survival. The number one risk to piglets is actually their mama rolling on top of them. A mama pig can roll on top of an entire litter of piglets and you lose all of them. That is where these crates came into place, to have better piglet survival and essentially make it more efficient. You can raise more pigs, make more money, and feed more people. So there are barns that are gestation barns for pigs where you have mama after mama in these farrowing crates with all of her little piglets, and she is in there for as long as she farrows and they are nursing, which is generally a pretty short period of time. It depends on what their system is. And so from that point forward, you have a higher number of pigs, which are then going to go into a big barn type system. They're not going to be under the sunlight or free ranging like this. They're going to be raised in a barn with a whole bunch of other pigs. They are bred for feed conversion and efficiency and getting them turned over as quickly as possible. Those mamas are getting bred back quickly. They're having 2 to 3 litters a year in those crates and in those tight barns. They feed a lot of people. So please know that I do understand that. I understand why the system is in place. It reduces the cost to you, the consumer, and it makes it so that the farmer can grow their farm without taking so much space. They can grow so many more pigs in a smaller space. They can regulate that space. They can regulate temperature. They can regulate what those pigs are exposed to, whether it's predators, diseases, and they can manage those things easily in that tight space. The system itself, the way that it is built, it makes sense logically to produce a high amount of food at a lower cost. You're feeding them for a shorter period of time. They are feeding bulk feed. They're getting things cheaper by doing it that way versus a small producer like us who is buying 100-pound bags of feed, not tons of feed at a time. It exists for a reason. That is an important part of farming. A lot of those farms are family owned by good people who are trying to feed their own families. So I understand why the system is the way that it is, but let's talk about what makes pasture-raised pigs just a little bit better. We're going to start with our mama. So our mama, Willow, just had her very first litter of piglets. She has turned out to be a great mama. It's always kind of nerve-wracking in those first few days to see how she's going to react. Is she going to be aggressive, or is she going to be super gentle with her piglets and with us? She has done great. She has not lost a single piglet at this point. We're about 3 days in, a little over 3 days in. And she's doing absolutely fantastic, which is to kind of be expected because that is how her mom is too. We kept her from one of her mother's litters, and then we got a new boar and bred them both back. So she is part of a genetic line that is a great mothering line. We're breeding for pasture genetics for feed conversion of taking the grasses and the bugs and turning it into protein. Now, your heritage breeds are going to be a little bit better at that, especially the Tamworths, which is primarily what we grow. So these are Tamworth, large black, and Hampshire mixes. So that's why you see the different colors here. These are just the ones that are left over from our spring piglets, from our sow Babette. We sold most of the other ones in that litter. Now, immediately from the get-go, from the farrowing, she's able to build a nest. We gave her a whole bunch of straw. She built up this big, beautiful nest. She laid in that, and she had her piglets. You cannot do that with a farrowing crate. You're eliminating a lot of the natural habits of these pigs. So she did great. She actually farrowed in the middle of the night. We completely missed it. Ryan was up at 3 a.m. checking on her, and by 5 a.m. when we got up, she had all 10 piglets past the placentas. She was completely done. We missed the whole thing. And farrowing often does take more than those 2 hours, so we were really surprised at how quickly, for a first-time mom, that went for her. She had no complications, no problems, very exciting, and she had a large litter. So 10 piglets is relatively large. From what I was reading, back in the 50s, before they started using the farrowing crates and some of these newer systems, the average litter size was 6, and they have increased that to 10. Even in a conventional system, 10 is a good goal to have, so I'm really happy that we've got 10 healthy piglets right now. Babette has also always had large litters between 10 and 13, and so we are expecting another large litter from her, if all goes well, next week. And then we'll be raising a whole new batch of piglets out through the winter. I'll save that for another video because I think it's a really interesting thing. Most people raise all of their pasture pigs during the summer because they do have more pasture available to them, but we have a lot of people wanting to buy piglets in the spring. We have switched to raising a lot of them over the winter. So these guys will go to butcher in December, and then we will have our piglets raised out through the winter. They will get spring grass and forage, and then they will finish out in probably about June. With that said, it does take longer to grow them out. They are very happy pigs living on pasture. They are able to have all of their natural foraging. They have their wallows. They have the ability to root around in here. They get bugs, roots, and all kinds of things that pigs naturally want. They want to root, especially with these pasture genetics. Now, it does take longer for them to grow out because you're supplementing with grain. You're not primarily using grain. But you do have to raise these pigs out for 8 to 9 months rather than 5 to 6 months. So these guys in particular, they're taking care of a space for us. It's kind of a marshy or wet space. It's not too bad right now. That is really overgrown with grass. It has lots of lumps and bumps. You can't really walk through here or drive through here. And then we have our cows back on the other side, and we can't see them very well. So we're just trying to clear this little area, kind of see what it's like. We want the grass to come back and absorb any water that comes down this way, but we would just like it to be cleared a little bit. But my number one problem in here is I have thistles that are approaching into our yard, and then they were getting into this marshy space, and I was worried once they got out here they would just take off. So one of the things we're using is pig power, just like goats, to kind of take down all of that, root it up, and try to eliminate some of that seed bed so that we don't have the thistles eventually getting out into our cow pasture. Now, if they get this nice and level, we may be able to address the thistles if they do come back with mowing, or we can put the pigs back out here in the spring when this grass starts to come back up if we're still having thistle problems. But they are great for this. They can take care of invasive species. They can clear spaces for you. You can use pigs for all sorts of things. But the important part is moving them regularly and giving them enough space to forage and not just root and dig and destroy the area. You can have some really healthy soil if you're moving these guys effectively. You still have issues whether you're in factory farming or small farms like ours with just management and welfare issues. We got our boar from a barn that you could not see that it had gutters. That is how dirty that barn was. And that was a situation with a death in the family, and then somebody who didn't live there took over taking care of the farm. They were trying to get rid of the animals, and so we kind of rescued him from that situation. But there are people that raise their animals differently than what your ethics and goals will be. Now, it's normal for pigs to be on mud. It's normal in the springtime. It's normal in the fall. You're going to have pigs in muddy pastures at times. Now, these pigs came from an area where they were on bare dirt. They've still been rooting and been able to get around, and we've been giving them a lot of grass and hay and feed so they can have that nutritional value. But sometimes pasture-raised pigs are raised on dirt. But they definitely do like the green grass and the space that we've given them here. They are eating grain right now because they saw me and they got super hungry. So we did give them grain. That's what they're doing right here. We do feed them grain. We get it from our local feed mill. We do not do organic or non-GMO. You can go that route if you want. But growing pigs this way is not cheaper. I'd like to say that it is, but in our case, it has not been. Pigs are expensive. We have our own breeding stock, so we also have to factor that in. But there is definitely a premium cost to pasture pigs, both for us, the producers, and for you, the consumers. You can look up pasture-raised pork prices, and they come out with a report of what the commodity price of pork is, and then the pasture premium and what pasture cuts are going for. It is a huge difference. Pork chops right now for pasture-raised are averaging about $10 a pound, whereas commodity pork is like $2.70 a pound or somewhere in that area. So you can look up that report and kind of see there is definitely a premium cost to buying pasture-raised pigs. And so you could definitely consider that a luxury. Not every family can buy pork at those prices. We try to keep that in mind. We try to keep our pork prices lower than the average pasture-raised pork prices. But we're also doing this to feed our family. The reason we started raising pigs is so that we could reduce our own costs of feed. I was just a stay-at-home mom, and then I started raising chickens, eventually pigs, and now we also have the beef and the dairy. So with that price, what are you getting? Why does pasture-raised pork cost so much? Number one, we cannot raise a mass amount of pigs on our property here. We just cannot sustain them. In order to keep them clean, disease-free, worm-free, without using a whole bunch of antibiotics or dewormers, which we do not use on our farm. If we ever had to use antibiotics, we would absolutely disclose that. Obviously use the withdrawal period and not have them butchered until that is complete, and most likely only sell that to family. So we're able to manage each individual pig if needed. We have had good luck growing our runts out because we are taking care of them individually. We have a smaller group of pigs in this space. So that contributes to the price a bit. The second factor is that the nutritional value is different. You have a better omega-3 concentration. Specifically, your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is better in pasture-raised pigs. So that has been proven, as well as higher vitamin E, higher vitamin D. It all comes with just what they're supplementing themselves with when eating on pasture and getting sunlight all day long. It takes a little bit more to manage that sunlight. They need shade. So you either need to have good shelters, or you need to have the trees and places for them to cool down, water, places for them to wallow. It's definitely different than growing in a barn where you can temperature control. So it takes a little bit more management in that respect. We're constantly moving pigs. I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people don't talk about, is if you have pasture pigs, unless you have like a great big field that you're rotating them through, oh, that would be so nice. You're probably moving pigs a lot. So we just had these guys up on the hill when they were little. They were down in our other pasture by our big pigs. That one gets more wet, so we try not to put a lot of pigs down there. And now we're clearing this space to hopefully use for pigs in the future and just have more and more paddocks to rotate them through. So it takes a lot of space. It takes more time. The nutrition is differently and the taste is different. It's a super rich pork. When you get our pork chops, they are red. They almost look like beef. Not comparable in taste or nutrition to the store-bought pork. That there is why conventional pork exists and why when you go to Walmart, it's going to be cheaper. My advice to you, if you're in a similar situation to us and you have the ability to grow out your food or the ability to buy a share of pork, like a half share or a whole share, that's going to be your best bang for your buck. Saves for the producers quite a bit of money because we don't have to store that pork. We don't have to cool it, keep it frozen, market it. If you buy a half pig from us, you're going to get the best value, definitely by far. We also sell by the cut, and cuts vary in price. We're picking all of the cuts that we order based on what people purchase the most of. We had a couple of pigs made entirely into brats this year, and they are already sold out. There's just certain things that sell better than others. If you are buying a share of pork, you choose what you want that pork made into, and you can order that for your family. If your family hates pork chops, have them ground up. Have them made into breakfast links or brats. If your family really loves pulled pork, get those roasts, get nice big ones. You can smoke them, you can cook them in your slow cooker. I think pork is quite underrated for the most part. You can make so many good meals out of pork that I didn't even know. I didn't grow up eating a lot of it. So we make pork stir fry. We put pork in our spaghetti. We use it for breakfast meats quite often. Bacon, that goes really fast. You can pick and choose what you want. If you don't like bacon, you can get side pork or pork belly. It's really cool that you can order pork to what your family eats and would need by buying a share. I have a whole separate video about this where we go through a cut list and all of the different options that our butcher has for pork and what I recommend. And I will link that video down in the description for you to take a look at. But you can generally plan on a pig weighing between 150 and 200 pounds hanging weight if they're pasture raised like this. You can get bigger pigs than that, especially if you're buying from a producer that is growing in a barn and heavily grain feeding. But ours have always come out between about 150 and 200. 200 is the goal, but depending on just the pigs, the genetics, and when we get our butcher appointment, that kind of determines how big they end up getting. So a quick note about hanging weight. Hanging weight is after they take the organs and the head off, but not the bones and the actual cutting up of the carcass. So you get about 75% of that all said and done. So if you have a 200-pound hanging weight pig, you're going to get about 150 pounds of finished cuts. Now that's a whole share. Most people aren't buying whole shares because that's a lot of meat. Most people are buying half shares. So you would get a hanging weight of 75 to 100 pounds, and your finished weight would probably be somewhere between 60 and 75 pounds of meat. So it's not a huge amount of meat to put into your freezer. Not everybody has a big chest freezer, and people are more likely to buy a quarter of beef and fill that space. But I do recommend trying pasture-raised pork and trying some different recipes with it, some different things. We just really love it. Our kids have really learned to love it. We do breaded pork chops, grilled pork chops and gravy. They love all the things. And it has been a huge blessing to our family to raise pigs. But we do name our breeding stock. We love them dearly. They're like members of the family. They are treated so well, and they get all the good treats. So the feeders and the breeders get milk, especially when we're finishing them out. They get that rich Jersey milk, which really helps grow a really nice product. And we're just really proud of how we raise our pigs here, and I hope that you guys will give us a shot if you're local. Get some pork from us or order a share coming in December. We'll have them again in the spring if all goes well. And I hope that kind of seeing how we raise them out helps give you a little bit of perspective on the differences and why there is a little bit of a price difference between your standard grocery store pork and what you're getting from us. With that said, talking of prices, beef, crazy. Beef prices are insane. We bought a calf this year for $900, and he was a few hours old when we went to go get him. So beef prices, in order to make up for those costs that people are spending this year just to get their cows, it's going to last for a while. Usually those cows are growing out for 2 years. I would expect beef prices to stay high for quite a while. So pork becomes a good option there for feeding your family. It's going to be a more cost-effective protein. And if you want some help learning how to cook it or how to make it for your family in a way that they would like, check out my pork cooking playlist. We have some good ideas on there, and I'm going to continue to add to that different ways that you can feed your family using this much more cost-effective meat, whether you're buying it from the grocery store or buying it from a small producer like us. It's definitely an option to help feed your family and save a little bit of money. So did I miss anything? Is there anything that you would like to know about pasture-raised pork? Anything that you are curious about, whether you are looking to grow them or to purchase them? I am here for you. I love to have some good conversation in the comment section. I try to respond to everybody. I know it's pretty difficult sometimes and things get away from me, especially these past few videos where we got a ton of views, a ton of new people, lots of comments. I'm trying to keep up with it, but if you have anything, you can always message me on Facebook or Instagram as well. I'm very active over there, and messages are a little bit easier to get back to. So go ahead and leave me a comment. Do you eat pasture-raised pig, and do you like it? Do you think it has a different taste or nutritional value? What do you think? What would you recommend to others? I'd love to hear about it and see if you think it's worth the value. So thank you for hanging out with me and my pigs. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.